Let's bring in Stat Boy, the big Rangers Ed. Welcome here with the Gabe Perreault World Juniors U.S. jersey in the background. I love that.
Wow.
What's up, Stat Boy?
Nice. Beautiful.
Hey guys, nice talking to you again. After, of course, we met up in Toronto. So, yeah, it's been a crazy couple of weeks for Ranger fans. Perone Fortescue winning gold in the World Juniors, Hoffman and Edstrom making their debut. So, from the prospect side, at least, it's very exciting.
Yeah, dude, definitely. So, yeah, we got a chance to meet you in Toronto, which was pretty awesome during the Lundqvist Hall of Fame trip. Recognized you from Twitter, which I don't know if that's good or bad. I guess it's bad.
It happened a couple of times that weekend, and like it usually, I always travel to New York for preseason games, and preseason games is very low key. You know, we have a lot of like younger fans who attend the games because the tickets are relatively cheap. It usually happens at those games where people walk up to me and want to say hi or want to take a picture. I didn't expect it to happen in Toronto, to be honest, because you don't expect that many Ranger fans there. But I guess us Ranger fans travel everywhere, so still happened a couple of times there. But yeah, always fun when it happens.
Yeah, so it was awesome to meet you. So why don't you just start by telling a little bit about yourself? Like, how did you end up blowing up on Twitter? Is this your career? Do you have like another career, or is like the Rangers Twitter your career? I'm curious.
Honestly, it's just a hobby. I was like years ago was dating a girl in New York, and when we were watching Ranger games, I would always look up stats, and if something weird happened during the game, I would always try to look it up. So she started calling me Stat Boy as a joke, and then she's like, you know what you should do? You should create a Twitter account to share this so you don't have to bother me with it anymore. Like, all right. So I created a Twitter account and I started tweeting these random stats. And this is like back in 2015 or 2016. And honestly, the first year and a half, like nobody really followed me. I had like 5 likes on a tweet or whatever. But when I moved to Vienna, Austria from the Netherlands, I started traveling for work around Europe, and this was around the same time the Rangers started acquiring a lot of draft picks. It was the year where they traded Derek Stepan for the 7th overall pick. The following year, they traded, of course, Nash for a first rounder. They traded up for Keandre Miller. So there were a lot of prospects, and with me traveling to Sweden and Finland for work regularly, it gave me the opportunity to attend some games. And especially in Europe, it's really easy to connect to players. Like I remember Tim Stützle playing a game in Vienna. I just walk up to him before the game. They were just practicing like playing soccer outside before the game. Nobody really bothers them. You can just walk up to them and ask for a picture, and you can have like a chat with them. And I started doing that. Traveled to Germany to see Nils Lundqvist play. I drove to the Czech Republic to see Kravtsov and Kako in an under-20 tournament. And I just started sharing those stories on Twitter. And that's when it really took off. So, and then in 2019, I went to the Ranger game in Calgary, which they lost 5-1, unfortunately. But that's when they actually showed me on the Ranger broadcast. So that's when it really took off, I guess. And then during the pandemic, because I had spoken to these players at these junior tournaments, it was easier for me to reach out to them. I started doing like a prospect interview series because there was nothing really going on with the NHL on hold. And it just grew from there. And now I think I'm on 16,000 followers now, and started doing daily prospect recaps and schedules every morning. I started doing that because of the pandemic as well. There was no NHL hockey, and I was like, maybe Ranger fans want to know which prospects are playing today. So I did that for a couple of months. Then the NHL kicked off again. So I stopped doing them for about 2 weeks, and people were DMing me saying, hey, where are the prospect updates? Like, okay, I'll just continue doing them, I guess. So I've been doing them ever since. And yeah, the latest the latest prospect that the Rangers have drafted, kind of got in touch with them, like Brennan Hoffman and Yaroslav Chmelarsky and Adam Edstrom. And just
you're gonna have to repeat that. What was that guy's name?
Yaroslav Chmelarsky. He's the Czech winger that they drafted in the 5th round in 2020.
Yeah, see, I call him Chlemar, so that's
It's probably the hardest name to pronounce of any Ranger prospect ever. So I don't blame people for struggling with it.
Mikey could probably do it.
But yeah, no, I really enjoy sharing the prospect updates and the schedules, and when I try to follow like their team accounts, and whenever they score a goal, I try to share the video of the goal, and it's kind of a way for me to introduce these prospects to Ranger fans, so that when they do make the team in a couple of years, they're not complete strangers to this fan base. Unfortunately, the Rangers don't really put that much effort into it, so I kind of took that upon myself.
Snap Boy, you got to rewind a little bit though. You kind of glanced over. Well, first of all, we expect 16,000 downloads for this episode if you got that many followers. So no, but you kind of glanced over that they tweeted or showed your tweet on the broadcast. I mean, which broadcast? You mean the MSG one, right? Correct?
Yeah. So the Rangers played in Calgary, and I flew into Calgary because a friend of mine in Calgary had tickets, and he's like, if you fly into Calgary, I have tickets to the game. You want to go? So I flew to Calgary, and we had seats on the glass, and I brought like a sign and everything, and at the time, Elias Anderson was still on the team, and I don't really care that he turned into a bust. I support every prospect equally. If they're drafted by the Rangers, I'll support them until the day they're gone. Like until they're traded away or until they're released, I'll support them because the Rangers need these players to come through. So we had a couple in the past, of course, like Will Cooley now on the team. A really good example of a player that actually made the team. Unfortunately, with Elias, it didn't work out. But at the time,
we got him for Elias, so nice.
Yeah, exactly. Nice. At the time, I was still rooting for him, so I was able to take a picture with him during warm-ups, and that picture actually showed up on the broadcast where Sam Rosen mentioned my Twitter handle, and that was so surreal. Growing up in Europe, following the Rangers, you never really think that Sam Rosen is going to mention you by name on the broadcast. So that was pretty crazy. I think I went from 2,000 to 5,000 followers in one weekend when I was in Calgary. So that was a pretty big bump. And it's been a lot of fun, and I've met some great people through it as well. I've met some family members of players at games. They sometimes reach out to me and thank me for all the effort I put in. Like sharing the accomplishments of their son or brother or grandson. So it's not just Ranger fans that appreciate the effort that goes into it, and that actually makes me happy that these family members are thankful about it as well.
You're in the Netherlands, right?
I grew up in the Netherlands. I now live in Ireland. Yeah, my life story is a bit complicated. I was born and raised in the Netherlands. In my early 20s, moved to South Africa. Then I lived in Denmark for a year, then Luxembourg for a year. Then back to the Netherlands, then Austria for 4 years, and now I've been in Ireland for the last 2.5.
Luxembourg is the city and country, right? It's the city, and it's like only one city, the whole country.
No, it's a bit bigger than just a city, but it's small enough. I think it's smaller than Rhode Island. So.
Oh right. So how'd you become a Ranger fan with that travel?
So growing up in the Netherlands, when I was about 7 years old. My parents were going through a rough divorce. So every afternoon when I came home from school, I would go up into the attic, turn on the TV, and I'd watch anything that I could just, take my mind off of it. And there was one TV station called Screen Sport, and they were showing highlights of NHL games every afternoon at 4. So that became kind of like my ritual, coming home from school, turn on the TV, watch NHL highlights for an hour. And the reason I picked the Rangers, I always thought the Rangers were an interesting team because as a 7-year-old, I thought it was weird that they were the only team without a logo on their jersey. That's the only reason.
Wow.
So.
Well, Pittsburgh used to have it on the road. Right?
Yeah, they had the alternate jerseys, but they still had the other jerseys with the logo. But the Rangers only had the diagonal letter.
Yeah, so, it is true. That's interesting. Yeah. All right. Well, we're happy to have you on board and giving us the info on Twitter.
Is that where your stats started right there when you figured out at 7 they were the only team without a logo?
That's the first stat you ever looked.
That's the first stat you came up with.
Maybe. Like even when I was a kid, I always tried to. I followed soccer a lot when I was a kid growing up in the Netherlands. So I would like memorize the Champions League winners going back to 1956. If I was bored in a waiting room for the dentist or something, I'd take pen and paper and just try to write them all down. Same with like Olympic host cities or FIFA World Cup tournaments. And, it just grew from there. Just something I do to keep myself busy. And I cannot explain it. Like when something happens in the game, my brain just thinks, oh, that's something that probably doesn't happen very often. I wonder when was the last time it happened. And so I get up, go onto my laptop, research it for about 5 minutes, and if it's interesting enough, I'll tweet about it.
Yeah, no, that's
cool.
That's really cool. Yeah. So being that you're in Europe, I feel like the World Juniors outside of the U.S. is viewed probably more. I mean, I don't personally know any hockey fans in the U.S. that actually watch many World Junior games. I tried to follow it as best I could, but it's just a lot, and I'm curious, did you had a chance to watch it? I'm sure you're really into the World Juniors, right?
It's also tough because the top. Wait, sorry to cut you off. It's also tough in the United States because the games are on at like 11 in the morning, 10 in the morning.
Yeah,
it's like
exactly.
we're all working. Most of us are working over here.
Yeah,
so
it's usually.
I think that'd be the biggest reason. Otherwise, I'd have it on the TV without a doubt. Yeah,
it's usually hosted in Canada. I think in a 15-year span or in a 20-year span, I think 13 of the 20 tournaments will be held in Canada. So the majority of the World Junior tournaments will be hosted in Canada. You have a couple in the US and then some sprinkled in there that are in Europe. But this year it was in Sweden. 2020 was in the Czech Republic. And I think those are the only two in Europe over the last 8 to 10 years. Maybe I'm missing one. I think there was one in Russia as well. But yeah, it makes it harder for people in North America to watch when the first game starts at 6 a.m., of course. But yeah, I always follow it because, usually the Rangers have a couple of good prospects in them. This year it was only 3 prospects: Perreault, Drew Fortescue, and Adam Sikora, who was already with the Wolfpack. But in recent years, the Rangers have done really well. The Rangers are one of only 3 teams to have a gold medal winner in the last 4 tournaments. The others are Chicago and Montreal, who are both non-playoff teams. So the Rangers, for a playoff team, to have a gold medal winner in 4 consecutive World Junior tournaments, that's pretty impressive. And aside from that, there's also some silver medals. Kmelars had a silver medal last year. Noah Laba had a bronze medal. So the Rangers have had some decent success in the World Juniors over the last couple of years, which makes it more fun to follow.
And how much stock, because every NHL draft, when guys are drafted, they talk about their World Junior performance, or when analyzing the prospects, they talk about like Kakko. I remember in particular how he looked like a man amongst boys in the World Juniors, and so how much stock should we put into it?
Yeah, I'm not going to say it means absolutely nothing because a guy like Connor Bedard dominated, and he's going to be a great player, but I wouldn't really judge a player based on a 7-game tournament that lasts for only 2 weeks, because in 2018, Elias Pettersson didn't have a great tournament for Sweden, and he turned out to be one of the best centers in the NHL. But then you have Jacob Josephson, Jordan Schroeder, who was drafted both were drafted the same year as Chris Kreider, and Jordan Schroeder, I think, led the World Juniors in scoring twice, and he's not even in the NHL. So it's by no means an indicator of success. As a fan, I think you should just look at it, watch the games, and hope for your players to do well, but not panic if they don't.
Yeah. Yeah, so the Rangers, you said Gabe Perreault and Drew Fortescue. Those are 2 draft picks from the last draft.
Yes, the first and third round picks. Yeah.
Both played for Team USA. And, did you get a chance to watch them? What did you think?
Well, my wife's American, so I don't really have a chance to not watch those games. But yeah, look, I'm from the Netherlands. When I watch the World Juniors, I have no team to root for. I really don't care who wins. I usually just root for the teams that have Ranger prospects on them. So the last 2 years, I was rooting for Canada because they had Othman and Cooley and Garand on it. The year before that, 3 years ago, with Brett Berard and Hunter Skinner, I was rooting for them. But as long as a team with a Ranger prospect wins gold, I'm happy. But yeah, Team USA, Gabriel Perreault was really impressive, especially in the knockout stages. He had 7 points in 3 games in the knockouts, and only 3 points in 4 games in the group stage. So it's really good to see that he turns it up for the games that really matter. But yeah, overall, even Drew Fortescue for a defensive defenseman put up a decent amount of points as well. And these kids are only 18. They're coming back next year for another World Juniors. And for Team USA, the 18-year-olds are usually playing a smaller role because it's the veterans that they usually have in the top 6 and on the top pair. So next year, Fortescue and Perreault will have an even bigger role. And of course, Perreault plays with Will Smith and Ryan Leonard, the same line that they're on in college for Boston.
Yeah, and they're doing really well for Boston this year as well. So,
yeah,
I mean, they have some good chemistry, and
yeah.
From what I've seen from Perreault in highlights, I didn't have a chance to watch a full game, but he seems impressive.
And
he's got that strong hockey IQ. I mean, he definitely has some growing to do with his body and stuff like that. But his hockey IQ and just his vision and things like that seem to be on par.
Yeah, and you draft a guy 23rd overall, you're not going to get a perfect player. If you draft 1st overall, 2nd overall, 3rd overall, you get a player that pretty much is a product that you can see in multiple ways. 23rd overall or
unless you're the Rangers.
Overall, unless you're the Rangers, yeah. But Othman in 2021 being the 15th player drafted, even though it was 16th overall because of that weird year where Arizona had to forfeit their pick. The 15th player drafted in 2021, and then Perreault, the 23rd player drafted this year. They're not going to be perfect players. They're going to have some holes in their game that they have to work on. But with Perreault, the pure skill is there. With Othman, he's one of the best snipers we've ever drafted. He's one of the best shots we've ever had in our prospect pool. And I know with Perreault, there are some concerns about his skating, but those same concerns were there for Othman. And Othman in his NHL debut did not look slow. Like, he's not going to be the type of player like McKinnon or McDavid that skates past everyone, but it's by no means holding him back either. So
just let him be Matthew Tkachuk. He doesn't have to be Nathan McKinnon.
Yeah, but Gabriel Perreault in the next year and a half to 2 years has enough time to refine his skating and work on that. So I'm not too worried. But the way he's playing in college, I'm surprised he fell to 23. The Rangers got a steal with him.
Yeah, that's the buzz around the league without a doubt, or around social media, I should say, that the Rangers definitely got the steal of the draft with him. And I think he's going to continue to develop. I mean, Team USA or the USA Development Program seems to be churning out some really good offensive talent and a lot of defensive-minded players as well on the other side too. So hopefully he continues to develop into the player that we're looking for.
Yeah, unfortunately, Adam Sikora didn't have a very successful tournament for Slovakia. I know Slovakia wanted more out of this tournament. It was one of their best generations in 2 decades. And to go out in the quarterfinals was very disappointing. But he
wasn't he the captain though? Yeah.
He was the captain of that team. So it was still a great experience for him. But I know that those players wanted more out of this tournament. Of course, they were missing Slavkovsky and Nemec, who were not released by their teams.
Well, quarterfinals ain't too shabby, especially getting some leadership experience, I guess. So,
yeah. I'm just happy the Rangers allowed him to go because I do think it's a great experience for someone like him. And now he's back with the Hartford Wolfpack. So,
yeah.
Yes. So what? I'm just curious. What is the state of the Rangers, like European prospects? I feel like as fans, we can easily access and. It's more in our face when there's a Canadian junior prospect or a college prospect like Fortescue and Perreault. Are there any European prospects, maybe later picks that we should keep an eye out for that you've interviewed or seen play?
Well, in Europe we only have 2 prospects this year. It's Kalle Väisänen in Finland, who we drafted in the 4th round in 2021, and then Oliver Tarnstrom, who was a 3rd round pick in 2020. Tarnstrom's rights expire this upcoming summer. I don't think the Rangers are going to offer him a contract. He hasn't really developed the way you would hope. Väisänen is still a year away from his rights expiring, so we'll see what happens with him. But Väisänen reminds me a lot of Adam Edstrom. Like, the production is not really there. He's not the type of guy that puts up a ton of points in the European Pro League. But when Edstrom came over to North America at the end of last season, he was really impressive with the Hartford Wolfpack because his style is perfectly suited for North American hockey. The smaller rings, the intensity, the more gritty game. Whereas in Europe, it's much more focused on possession. It's much more focused on skill. And Väisänen, like Edstrom, has the frame to be successful in North America. So I wouldn't be surprised if they offer him a contract and then loan him out to his team in Finland for another year, like they did with Edstrom. But yeah, those are the only two prospects that are currently playing in Europe.
So that Schlemar kid, he's not in Europe. Where is he?
He's
Is he
playing
college?
for Providence in the NCAA.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So they must have
And then
recruited him
there's-
because
know
he's
that.
European.
Yeah, and then there's Rasmus Larsson, who plays in the USHL. He's Swedish. And then Adam Sikora, who's Slovak, who's playing in the AHL. So we have some European prospects. They just don't play over here anymore.
Is that kid Barbashev European, or is he born in Canada? Do you know?
No, he's Russian. He's the younger brother of Ivan Barbashev.
Yeah, I heard he's when I read about him, he appears to be like an Ivan Barbashev type, like a Coach Ed favorite, I call it. Like a guy in the
Yeah.
bottom six is gonna muck it up.
Yeah, he was traded twice this season because his situation is a bit odd. He's a late birthday, so he turned 20 already, and he's European, which means in the QMJHL that brings some limitations with it, because QMJHL teams can only have two overagers, so players 20 years or older, and they can only have two European players. They call them import players, and Barbashev counts for both. So he was traded to the Shawinigan Cataracts over the summer, and then they had to make a decision. So they traded him to the Rimouski Oceanic, Alexis Lafreniere's old team.
Wow.
Well, it's interesting. I thought it was that you brought up a lot of European prospects moving over to North America. I mean, you pay attention a lot closer than we do. Do you see, I don't want to say a better development, but like a quicker development or more acclimation toward the North American style if they do come over here earlier, as opposed to playing professionally in, say, Swedish Elite League or Finland or whatever else?
I think for a large portion of prospects, it's really good if they go over to North America and play a couple of years there. But it's not necessarily the only way to do it. There are plenty of players in the NHL that have never spent a day in the American Hockey League. It's and I know people always bring up the rink size argument, and to a degree, it is an adjustment. But you have guys like Sebastian Aho, Arturi Lekkonen, for instance. If the thing is, if you're good enough, you're going to make that adjustment on the fly and go straight to the NHL. But if you're talking about 5th round picks, 6th round picks, 7th round picks, unless you have a guy like Jesper Brad who made that jump right away, 9 out of 10 times they're going to need some seasoning in the AHL. And it's not just the adjustment on the ice. For a lot of these kids, it's also a big adjustment moving to not just another country, but another continent, different time zone, where everything is different. You know,
Do you see a lot of Europeans coming over here to go to universities and colleges, North American universities and colleges?
Yeah, you see that more often the last couple of years. NCAA hockey has really developed into a premium league now for young players. So you see a lot of Europeans coming over to play in the USHL first for a year and then commit to a college program the following season. Like Rasmus Larsson, for instance. They drafted him out of Sweden. He came over to play in the USHL for this year, and next year he's committed to University of Minnesota, I think, Northern Michigan. Sorry, so he's playing for Northern Michigan in 24-25. And Hugo Olas, who's a Swedish goalie that we drafted in, I think, 2020, he came over.
6'8" goalie.
Yeah. Yeah, the Rangers have drafted some pretty big goalies. There's Talon Boyko as well from the WHL, who's I think 6'7" or 6'8". But yeah, European players come over more frequently now to play college hockey than they used to in the past.
Yeah, that's interesting. All right, Stat Boy, give us a stat since you're Stat Boy. I'm curious here. Give me like
Something
a
you haven't
random,
tweeted yet?
yeah, some
right.
random interesting
Something-
stat that you could throw
Something I
out.
haven't tweeted yet. Well, I tweeted it a couple of years ago and actually looked it up because I wanted to have like an updated one for it. You know how as Ranger fans we always feel that we give up a lot of first career NHL goals. We always complain about
Yes.
that, right? Oh, this player
Yes.
gets his first goal. Of course, it's against the Rangers. Of course. All right. In the salary cap era since 2005, 2006, the Rangers have given up 57 first career NHL goals. It sounds like a lot, right? That sounds like a lot.
Yeah.
It's only 22nd overall.
Wow.
Wow.
The most first career goals allowed, New Jersey Devils with 82.
Nice.
Okay.
All
That's
right.
Ottawa
interesting.
Senators
Interesting.
second place. Ottawa Senators in second place with 79. The Dallas Stars in third place with 77.
That's
So-
a lot of first NHL goals, though. I mean,
I
lately
know.
I've been feeling like I've been doing these parlays that keep failing on the Hard Rock, and I keep saying, God, I should have bet that because every game there's an ex-Ranger and they score. Tarasenko, Blackwell scored right for Chicago. Like I just feel like I got to start betting on guys to score against the Rangers. I'd be curious on that stat. That's probably impossible to look up, though.
It's not impossible. It just takes a lot of time, but I could maybe look that up. But yeah, I thought
Yeah, I'd
this
be
was an
curious
interesting
on
one
that.
because we always complain about this. This fan base. I think every fan base complains about it, but yeah, the New Jersey Devils fans really have reason to complain about it.
They got the gripe, but it's also the goalies too, right? The Rangers, for some reason, no-name goalies just show up and shut us down. All the
I was
time.
just going to ask that question. Every question I want to ask you ask first.
Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
go for it.
How many goalies do we make into superstars? The first game of the season, first game of their career.
Yeah, that definitely feels like a thing too. Definitely something I can look
Save
into.
percentage for goalies making their debut against the Rangers.
Their
I-
NHL
if you-
debut, right?
I think that's a doable one. I think it's a
If you,
doable
gi-
one
if, you,
for
if
you.
you give me a minute, I can look that up for you. Yeah.
Whatever. Doesn't have to
All
be a minute. The other
Tweet-
question I had
tweet it
for you
out to
before
us.
we let you go. Yeah, tweet it out to us with
Yeah,
the episode announcement when we get ready to do that. But I got one more for you before we let you go. What's your most liked tweet or shared tweet, or I guess shared stat, of your history or career, right? Whatever your Twitter career,
Most liked, like most likes, or like the one
like
he liked
or
most?
retweeted or reposted, whatever. Just your analytically,
think-
whatever you think is your best.
I think when the first reverse retro jersey came out, there were a lot of people who ordered, like the dark blue reverse retro. A lot
Yeah.
of Ranger fans ordered from the MSG store online, and there were a lot of complaints because the customization was all wrong. It was either the wrong size numbers or the wrong size nameplate, or the numbers weren't straight on it. And I tweeted a picture of an MSG store jersey that someone bought, and then I think it was one that Oscar actually made. And just to point out the differences, and I think it got over 2,000. I think it got over 2,000 likes.
I was gonna say, what did Oscar bribe you with a jersey to slip in like an ad for him or something?
At the
Oh
time,
my
I didn't
God.
know Oscar yet, but yeah, no, it's that I know that one's very popular. And then when the Arizona Coyotes moved to the Mullet Arena, I posted a picture of the visiting locker room that got like 4,000 likes. I think it didn't
Oh,
have
wow.
anything to do with stats, but yeah, people were shocked about the state of that locker room, I guess.
Awesome. Well, keep looking up those stats and keep tweeting, man, because it's really interesting. I love going on and seeing these random facts. Actually,
Yeah,
you
man.
posted yesterday. I got it correct. The only active player, coach, you probably didn't see it, but the question was, he asked a question. Everyone, he said,
I did see it.
Gustafson. Yeah, Gustafson's one of 4 active players. who have played for one of 2 active players who played for 4 original 6 teams. Who's the other? And I guess Jared Tenorti, a Coach Ed favorite, and I nailed it.
Yeah.
I nailed it.
So the Rangers have given up a shutout in an NHL debut only 4 times.
Wow.
Ever?
I want to know the save percentage if possible. I don't know how you look these stats up if it's too hard, but I want to know, like Coach said, the save percentage of NHL debuts as compared to like other teams, like kind of like you did with the first NHL goal. If that's
I just want to know wins and losses.
Oh, wins and losses.
No.
There you go.
Yeah. Forget save percentage. How many wins the first time NHL goalies?
Wins and
Against the
losses.
Rangers.
Okay, so they've
Yeah.
played 37 games against goalies making their debut, and they've won 9 of them.
The Rangers have won 9. All right, so
That's
No, wait.
9
Sorry,
to
sorry.
28.
percentage.
No. Hold
9
on,
to
hold on.
28 is a bad percentage.
No,
Jeez.
sorry. No, it's the other way around. It's
Oh,
the
28
Rangers
9.
the Rangers have only lost 9 of them, so it's not too bad.
really.
That's still bad though. I think it's the guy's NHL debut. That's what is that? More than a third? No, less than a third. But it's about a third.
yeah, but it's exciting stuff.
Yeah.
them.
All right. Well,
They come out to play.
Stat Boy, thanks for joining us. We're gonna have you back on for an update. Definitely around the draft. I'd like to have you back on, but we'll have you back
All
on
right.
before the season ends and get some interesting factoids on here. Appreciate your time, man.
Love it. Good job,
All
Stat.
From now on in our episodes, we'll be throwing out like, all right, Stat Boy, we need this for the next one. So now you gotta be alive. You gotta look alive over there. And
Sounds good.
Ireland.
Sounds good.
Thanks, buddy. Be
thanks,
safe over
brother.
there.
Appreciate it. Have a good one.
Enjoy, bud. Thank you.
Let's go.